Welcome back. It's our Friday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our A edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio as we bring you all things pertaining Razorbacks. A lot of Razorback coverage as we'll have on in our upcoming two segments. Derek Oxford of Mascot Media and also to Otis Kirk of 247 Sports. But we want to continue to talk Arkansas, Alabama, and what better way to do it because, you know, like we say, we always like to say it's two sides to every story. But before we bring our special guest on, I want to let everybody know this segment is brought to you by Lindsay & Associates with locations in Fayetteville, locations also two in Rogers. Lindsay & Associates, we bring great neighbors together. It's also brought to you by Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville, and also to Fun City. It's located just off the 412 bypass in Springdale, and if you don't get a chance to hear us each and every day of our live stream, you can catch us on iHeartRadio. The top segment will be podcast on iHeartRadio each and every evening in its entirety. But we want to continue on, and we're heading up to Tuscaloosa, where we catch up with our good buddy and the realest of the real, Stephen M. Smith. Stephen, welcome back to the Hill, my man.
Man, y'all too kind, man. Realest of the real. Y'all too kind over there.
Let's get off into it. What can Arkansas do? I know this is homecoming there in Tuscaloosa this weekend, but when you're the Arkansas program, what can you do heading into such a very festive environment as will be the case tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa?
You can have to mix and match some things, Pat. I mean, on yesterday, Brett Bielema talked about during his show last night on, you know, Austin Allen could possibly go at quarterback. He's going to try to give it a go. You know, Austin, who hurt his shoulder during the South Carolina game on last week, somebody that's very much so accurate with the football. Remembering last year, Austin Allen threw for 400 yards, had 2 to 3 touchdowns against the Tide, and despite 3 interceptions in that game, the final score was 49 to 30. So Austin Allen, for the most part, kept it close. You hope he can really go in this football game, because with Austin Allen on that field, it does give the Razorbacks more of a chance to score points that make this one interesting. But if Allen can't go and you're forced to use Cole Kelly, the redshirt freshman out of Lafayette, Louisiana, at 6'7", the main thing you can do with him, where offensive coordinator Dan Enos is concerned, is just create some mix and matches that can, you know, possibly confuse Alabama. Right. You know, to the best that you can, you've got to force Alabama's defense to adjust and adapt on the fly. And the element of surprise is probably the best element Arkansas has at this point. In the running back field, you do have David Williams, Devois Whaley, and Chase Hayden. David Williams leading that core with 5 rushing touchdowns. Jonathan Nance, I've gone back to watching our tape on him. So this kid's the real deal, 374 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. So, I mean, the element of surprise. If you're Arkansas offensively, you've got to find ways to score. You've got to find ways to keep, you know, the ball in your position. You got to find ways to score, move the chain. Time of possession, which is sometimes the most insignificant stat in college football, but time of possession will be critical for Arkansas. If they can find a way to hold on to the ball, move the chain, just get something going, that's a positive.
Stephen, I want to talk to you about Jalen Hurts. Seems like, this guy has really matured in year 2 of his collegiate football career. How important is it that, when put in third down situations tomorrow for Alabama offensively, that Jalen's able to complete a high percentage of those third down plays?
I think it's important. You want to win on first down if you're Alabama, just so, Hurts is not in those 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 situations. But at the end of the day, it's very important because you want to show not just Nick Saban, but also offensive coordinator Brian Dable that he can trust you to throw the football in those situations. Jalen, probably not the prettiest completion percentage on downfield throws, but he's got to be able to, not just target guys in open space, but when guys are open, be able to release the football. A lot of times, Jalen knows exactly where he wants to go to, but he tends to hold the ball a little bit longer do what he needs to. When he sees the guy open, you step into the throw with confidence and release the football. The main thing for Alabama, continuing just to win on first down, not allowing yourself to get into those third and long situations. But when those present itself, I have Jalen exude that confidence that when somebody's open, just release that ball.
When you look at this team health-wise, I know you've gotten a lot of sustained defensive injuries, but just seems like next man up. How is this football team heading into Saturday's homecoming game as far as health is concerned? Any new injuries, or just basically it's what you had over the last couple of weeks and everything else is all hands on deck?
I mean, the only new injury, Pat, is backup center Brandon Kennedy hurt his ankle, fractured his ankle during practice on Wednesday. Brandon Kennedy, the ankle needs to have surgery on it, so he'll miss a substantial amount of time, probably the remainder of the season. Brandon Kennedy, the backup behind Bradley Bozeman at center. Kennedy, who was a 4-star recruit from Wetumpka, Alabama, came into that 2015 signing class. Very productive kid, but behind him, you do have J.C. Haltenauer, who enrolled in that 2014 class, and also Josh Casher. So Haltenauer and Casher, the two guys Alabama will expect to emerge in the absence of Brandon Kennedy. And then also Tony Brown, who had a slight sprained knee against Texas A&M. Now, he's progressed really well in practice this week. Will he be able to give it a go? I believe so. If he was able to do some things in practice yesterday, then according to Saban, he will be able to go with Tony Brown, just a slight knee sprain there. The only new injury that's kind of a season-ending, inflicting one is Brandon Kennedy, the backup center behind Bradley Bozeman. Everything else is pretty much all hands on deck. As far as cornerback, Trayvon Davis and defensive end Deshaun Hand, both are still in practice despite Deshaun Hand having the strained MCL in his left knee, and then also Trevon Diggs with that right foot injury. Both guys have been in practice. Both guys have been able to do some things, and they'll continue to take them, day by day, week by week. But the only critical one, or somewhat critical one to this point, is Brandon Kennedy, the fractured ankle. He'll have surgery, and he'll miss a good amount of time.
The last question, we got about a minute and a half before I let you go, Stephen. I want you to give me one offensive player on the Arkansas side of the ball and one defensive player for Arkansas that you're really going to be watching as to be the featured players in this ball game for the Hogs.
I think the offensive player that I'm going to be watching for the Hogs, I know he hasn't done much this season, but I'm keeping my eyes on Jared Cornelius. I'm very high on this young man at wide receiver. Yes, Jonathan Nance has been the big-time star, but Cornelius is no slouch, and I feel like if you put a lot of attention on Nance this week, Cornelius will have something to say for that. I remember last year he had a big game against Alabama at Fayetteville. So Jared Cornelius offensively. Defensively, Santos Ramirez. That young man in the secondary has really started to grow on me. 24 tackles on the year, 4 pass breakups, which is tied for first on Arkansas. He does also have 1 interception. So Santos Ramirez, the defensive back, and Jared Cornelius, the wide receiver.
Well, make a note. We got to switch Jared. Jared's out with a torn Achilles for the year. So give me one more offensive player.
Wait. Well, man, since you said that, give me Jeff Whaley.
All right. Well, Stephen, as always, my man, we'll come back next week and we'll recap Hogs and talk about a big rivalry you guys have versus the Tennessee Volunteers a week from Saturday. But as always, my man, thanks for taking time out on the hill.
Appreciate it, you guys. Hey, y'all the realest. I'm just floating around. Y'all the realest.
All right, my man. That was Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama giving us the Crimson Tide's take on how they're approaching this upcoming homecoming game versus the Arkansas Razorbacks Saturday evening in Bryant-Denny Stadium, Tuscaloosa, Alabama at 6:15. Where we're going to step away, get us a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking with Mascots Media. Derek Oxford. It's on the Hill. with Pat Jenkins. Back in a moment.